It's Beer O'Clock and it's the Beer O'Clock Show, and it's our summer special. My name is Mark, and joining me, all tanned and relaxed, is my beer mentor, Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Not feeling very summery anymore, but so summer special is a bit of an interesting term, but oh well. Let's go with it. That's what it is.
Also joining us live from that little green land to the west is our buddy from the 11 p.m. Somewhere podcast, Ian. Hello, Ian.
Hello.
You alright, mate?
Stay away from my Lucky Charms.
Top of the morning to you. And he's got
Top of the morning.
he's got a really nice hashtag fuck macro beer t-shirt on.
I know, isn't it awesome?
He has 11 p.m. Somewhere merchandise. Why don't we have merchandise, Steve?
Because we just never got round to thinking about merchandise.
Your organisation is all around getting beer rather than getting t-shirts.
Well, actually, Johnny from the Craft Beer Channel was most impressed by my stash.
But you're the only person wearing them, aren't you?
Well, I've sold a couple of them.
See, that's my worry, that we'll end up with thousands of t-shirts that just can't sell. So
anyway, let's get over this bit of the intro.
I'm genuinely interested now. To anybody that's listening to this, if you want us to do merchandise and t-shirts, let us know. Tweet us and let us know, and we'll do some merchandise. I don't know what it'll look like, but we'll do it. There
Hashtag box stash.
Yes, that's it.
Right, it's our summer special, as I said, and it is a bit of a special this week because, as listeners of the show know, Steve went up to Bonnie, Scotland a little while ago to have a chat and a visit with the Brewdog boys and girls, and we've got some interviews that he recorded while he was up there sprinkled throughout this show. And Ian, you're up there as well, weren't you?
I was indeed.
Yeah. Did Steve behave himself?
I'd say reasonably.
I was on my best behaviour, actually. I was very well behaved.
Very good. Anyway, before we get to the first interview, we have a little bit of news, Stephen.
We do.
Do you want the pips for the one bit of news that you're getting this week?
It's still news. So the last time you dropped the pips, there was internet outrage over the fact that there were no pips in the show.
From
so
Miles,
best do the pips, mate.
The outrage from one person.
Yeah. I've since met Miles, actually, and he's a really nice guy. So just for Miles, do the pips.
Did he mention the pips?
He did mention the pips all night long.
I was indignant when you left out the pips last time.
See,
you what?
There you go.
I was indignant in my rage. Incandescent, if you will.
Alright, here's your pips. Beep, 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 beep. Lovely,
thank you very much. So this week's one news item. People who are listening to the show now may have already seen this news because it went up on our website earlier on Friday. We are pleased to announce a new partnership with Owls by Mal, where Mark and I are going to be recording some exclusive content for Owls by Mal for their new website once it launches, that gives people around about a 60-second intro to the beer that they're considering buying. So if they're unsure of what it is that they're buying, they'll be able to click on a little recorded segment that's been done exclusively by the Beer O'Clock Show. In return for us doing that, Owls by Mal are pleased to continue sponsoring our show and giving our listeners 10% discount off of everything when you visit their website, owlsbymal.co.uk. And coming in the future, we'll be hoping to feature a lot more of the beers that they have for sale on future seasons as well. So keep an eye out for that. But all of the news about the new partnership is up on the website right now, so you can check that out. And you can click on the links there and go straight to the Owls by Mal website and get your first discount.
Very good. That friend of yours that gives you shit for how you say pale ale can give you even more shit for how you say Owls by Mail.
He's going to love it, isn't he? Owls by Mal.
See what's on sale at Owls by Mail.
I know, it's anything with that kind of combination of letters in is just going to kill me every time. Yes.
Right, okay. First of all, Brewdog little bits and pieces. This is where James Watt from Brewdog talks about starting the brewery and Punk IPA.
So the beer we're going to taste first, it's an obvious place to start, and I'm sure it's a beer that everyone knows, but it's Punk IPA. But I think it's a good place to start because so much of the kind of story and history of our company and so much of what we do is kind of linked so closely to this beer itself. So it was the first batch of beer we ever made up in Fraserburgh. We cobbled together this system, just myself and Martin. In the first batch, I remember we got up at 5 o'clock that morning. We were super excited. We put on some Radiohead and this rickety stereo, and we mashed in. And unfortunately, my mobile phone, my car keys both ended up in the mash tun. A mercury thermometer ended up in the kettle. So the whole first batch we had to condemn. We didn't think it was a good idea to poison people, and we didn't want to put made with malt, water, yeast, hops, cell phones, car keys, mercury on labels either. The second batch, we actually had no money at all when we set up. So the second batch, to try and save money, we bought some very cheap hose to connect the heat exchanger to the fermentation tanks that we had. And what happened was the cheap hose made the beer taste like plastic. So from then we've only bought the most expensive hose we could find, but that was batch 1 and batch 2 that we had to condemn. So we had to go to the bank and get some credit cards to get £1,000 to get malt and hops for the third batch, and the third batch it worked out much better than both the first and the second batch. This was a beer that Martin and myself used to make at home, and we like to think it very much lives up to the Punk name, and that it's a modern day rebellion against the bland, tasteless, mass market industrial beers, and it has the same attitude towards the incumbents of the beer market that the old school punks had to pop culture. The defining feature of this beer is probably the use of the Nelson Sauvin hop, one of our favourite New Zealand hops. It's quite a distinctive hop, and immediately when you smell the beer, you're going to get that gooseberry, kiwi, lychee, pineapple, mango kind of assertive notes. So quite different from a typical US IPA, which is going to be more piney, citrusy, spicy, resinous, and kind of really adds a lot to this beer. A lot of pale malt in here, so it's 5.6% alcohol. It hits about 40 IBUs, so reasonably assertive in the bitterness without being massively overpowering. And for us, we want to make it's a session beer. It's a high end of the kind of session spectrum, but it's a beer that's loaded with kind of punch, flavour, and our favourite hops. So we hop this beer at every single stage. So there's kettle hops and loads of hops post-fermentation as well. So you've seen the hop cannon when you was doing your tour. So the hop cannon goes in overdrive in this one. We chuck loads of Simcoe, Tannum Chinook, and then Nelson Sauvin just to kind of finish it off. Simcoe is a hop that we use in a lot of our beers as well, and I like that hop so much that my dog is called Simcoe. This was the beer that opened up Sweden for us as well. So Sweden's now our biggest export market, which is bizarre given that there's just 9 million people there. But the amount of punk that we send there is always amazing. So yeah, we sell it to Punk, and we started selling this to Tesco. But the time we started selling it to Tesco, it was 2 humans, 1 dog, filling bottles by hand, sleeping in sacks of malt in the floor, working about 20 hours a day. I was selling bottles of beer out the back of my car, and we were losing money with a bank load of £20,000 that we were struggling to pay back, and kind of go nowhere. And I sent some beers into a Tesco beer competition and kind of forgot about it, and was back just selling beers out the back of my car. And it was so tough for us to sell the beers that we were making in the northeast of Scotland, and everyone that we've tried to sell them to told us to make cheaper beers or make beers with less flavoured, or even stop using dark glass bottles because they thought it made the beer look cheap. But we were determined that if we were going to fail, we were going to fail making beers that we loved, that we were passionate about ourselves, and the whole thing is completely selfish. So we make beers that we want to drink, and if other people want to drink them, then that's cool. I remember we kind of hit a low point. I was driving around and I was in Aberdeen, and gave this guy the best sales pitch about New Zealand hops, handmade, artisanal, all these things, and he just kind of tasted the beer and spat it back in the glass and said, "Listen mate, I don't like any beer that's got hops in it." And you think, well, do I argue with this stupid motherfucker, or do I just put the case back in the boot of the car and wonder if I'm going to tell the bank the next day because I'm not paying their loan back? So it was kind of really tough for us the 6 months. And after we sent these samples to Tesco, we ended up getting a phone call a few months later saying it would finish first, second, third and fourth in this Tesco beer competition. So I went down to Tesco head offices and sat there, and the guys were saying, we love your beers, we want to put them in 500 stores nationwide, and we can do 2,000 cases a week. And I sat there with my best poker face and didn't mention anything at all about the fact it was 2 guys and 1 dog filling bottles by hand. So we'd 4 months until this contract was due to kick off. So we went to our bank, which was Bank of Scotland at the time, and said, look, we've got this amazing contract with Tesco, but I'm going to need £100,000 for a bottling machine, I'm going to need £50,000 for fermentation tanks. And the bank just laughed at me basically. Said, look, you've been going for 6 months, you're losing money, you're not paying your bank loan back, there's no way we can do that. So Martin and myself, we went to the bank next door, which was HSBC, and it's kind of our last kind of chance. So we told the guys at HSBC our bank have just offered us an amazing deal in asset finance and a bottling line and some fermentation tanks. We've got this contract with Tesco, we're a young up and coming company, you want to work with us, and if you can match this deal that we've got from Bank of Scotland, we will shift our bank into you. And for some reason they went for it. So business plan year 1 was make hoppy beers and tell lies to banks. Maybe that's business plan beyond year 1, I don't know. But we got the bottling machine in, and that was a small one that you saw today. So we've got a big one, but that was a small one that we got from the banks back then. And the beer came off the bottling machine a few weeks before it was due to go into Tesco. And from then we've been able to steadily build our business and continue to on this mission to get other people as passionate about craft beer as we are. So got the beers at Tesco, then we started selling to Sainsbury's, and then we started exporting to Sweden. And now we export our beers to 50 different countries, which is pretty exciting, and 65% of what we do goes overseas. So most of the beer that we make here, we ship overseas, but most of that stays kind of quite close within Europe. It's a beer that's changed a little bit since we started making it. Punk IPA started off at 6%. We didn't have the capability, the tanks, the technology to dry hop it to the extent that we did back then. So it's kind of evolved as we've had better equipment and been able to do more things with it, and we're quite excited about where we've managed to get it to with the new setup we've got here.
And there we go. Okay, so let's have a little bit of a chat with Ian. We had a recording with you a little while ago, which was on your show, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I also did one on yours as well. I think it was episode 76 of the Beer O'Clock Show. See how prepared I am.
Good knowledge.
So what have you been up to lately, mate?
Well, last weekend, myself, Steve, and many other riders descended on Ellen, and we just about left it standing, drank their tanks dry, flipped off a couple of macro beer trucks on the way back to the airport, as you do. Raised some hell. Aberdeen is running scared.
Very good. It. Wow, I must have taken some effort to make Aberdeen run scared. And how's the show going?
Show is going great. Like, listenership is just growing constantly. Downloads are just increasing. I'm trying to bring on more podcast and video producers as well in Ireland. 2 just launched this week. My good buddy Wayne, who Steve met last weekend, he just launched his podcast yesterday, which is the Irish Beer Snob podcast. So that gives us 2 audio podcasts in the Irish market. And my other good friend Sarah Finney just recently launched her 5 minutes of Finney sort of craft beer and whiskey video blog as well. So
wow, this
is all go on this side.
Very good.
Taking shit over.
That's more exciting than UK side, England side. Fucking hell.
Yeah, I think we're only kind of one of about 3 podcasters over here. So yeah, it's almost balanced already, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, there's us, there's Beer Channel, Johnny and that lot. There's that little.
I'm coming for you, Johnny. I told you this already. I'm coming for you.
There's that little Welsh fella on YouTube.
Yeah, they all do the video stuff, mate. We don't. We're exclusively audio these days.
And when people see our faces on the lock-in this weekend, they'll know why we're exclusively audio.
Yeah, faces made for radio, mate.
Great faces for radio, yeah. So how was Brewdog? Because I don't think I've spoken to you properly since then, Steve. I'm not sure.
It was a really good. It was only really a day actually, because sort of arriving up there at 8 o'clock on Friday morning, and then departing at 5 to 9 the following morning. It was only just over 24 hours, but it was a fantastic experience actually. I mean, just we got the full works, so we got the full tour of the brewery. We got taken through what we coined as the conditioning room, where you're handed a bottle of punk 30 seconds after it's come off the bottling line, and then everybody marvels at how fresh and amazing it tastes. And then once you come out of the conditioning room, the other side, everything's brilliant. It's like it's like a proper Willy Wonka moment. You're just waiting for James or Martin to appear in their top hat and tailcoat sort of thing. But it was just interesting to see the size of the operation that they're running up there, and the fact that they've still got room to expand, and they still want to expand further. I think they were saying while we were up there that some like 53% of their production at the moment is punk, which means that everything else they do fits into that 47%. Now, when you consider how many other different beers are constantly coming out of Brewdog, that's quite an operation that they're running up there. But yeah, it was just a really great experience, and just got to meet some really great people as well. I mean, I'm obviously not just saying this because Ian's on the podcast tonight, but it was great to meet Ian. It was great to meet the rest of the Irish contingent. Great to meet bloggers that I've not met before. Great to catch up with people that I know that were there as well. It was just everybody was just really, really happy and really cool and really chilled. And that was the good thing about it. I just come away thinking, yeah, I feel like I've been part of something pretty special there.
Cool. And Ian, how did you find it, mate?
Well, that wasn't my first trip up to Ellen. I was up there for the Equity Punk AGM. Yes, I am one of those guys, quite happily and quite proudly. And I'm always amazed by, when you go up there, just how much positivity there is. It's like walking into like a positivity monsoon. Everyone is just so eager to share their enthusiasm and their passion for great beer, and being able to spread the Brewdog story, and everyone is just so utterly proud of their part in it. It reminds me of that whole thing of, where there was an old story of a guy who worked as a custodian or a janitor in NASA, and he was asked what his job was, and he said that his job was helping to put someone on the moon.
Yeah.
And it is very much the case up there. I just love the second time I've been up there, and I just love it up there because how much positivity there is, how much energy there is, the fact that everyone is so willing, despite the fact they are so busy, to give you so much of their valuable time. It's incredible. I have an absolute love for them and what they do, because of the amount of energy that they not only invest in what they do, but that they want to share outwards, and that they're equally as enthusiastic about other people's great beers as well. So, more of that and less of the snarky shit, frankly.
What do you find?
Whoa, Steve's getting some funky stuff.
What do you define as snarky shit?
This kind of thing that, where it seeks to keep people from beer, and instead of bridging that gap between good people and good beer, it seems to keep good people at arm's length from good beer, that unless you're entirely knowledgeable, you shouldn't be able to come near this beer. And I think it gentrifies beer in a horrible way, as opposed to saying that, beer is for everyone, and that if you think that beer isn't for you, it's just because you've been misled and lied to.
Right. Okay. That's cool. All right. Let's hear part 2 of the Brewdog Logfest interview that Steve did up at Brewdog with Martin Dickie, where he talks about Jackhammer.
Okay, so this beer is Jackhammer. Have you all had that before? Yes? No? Yeah? Most of you. So Jackhammer is our interpretation of a strict West Coast style IPA. So to fit in that category, it needs to be a little bit higher in alcohol than our standard IPA. Very bitter and very aromatic. So the beer itself is just 100% pale ale malt. There's no caramel, no other slightly caramelised malt, crystal malt to give any colour. So all the colour there is just from the pale malt. But because it's 7% and a bit alcohol, it gives a little bit of colour. So it's a nice light golden colour. Then the thing with this is all we want is a base. It's just a malt base that we can then play off the hops. From going through the brewing process earlier on today, the hops that go in the brewing side are Columbus and Centennial. The Columbus is a much higher alpha hop, so we need to put a lot of that in there to get the bitterness, and we really want a lot of bitterness in the beer, so there's a lot of Columbus goes in there. It's sitting at around about probably 80 IBUs. It varies a little bit, between 75 and 85, but average out would be about 80 IBUs. And then the whole point of this beer is the massive aroma to play off the bitterness. So with that, we've got Amarillo, we've got Citra, and we've got Simcoe and Citra. So start that again. Amarillo, Citra, and Simcoe. So, I mean, for me, when you taste this beer, or you should be able to start tasting this beer from over here. It's all about that huge, citrus, piney aroma. But when you get into it, there's a lot of grapefruit in the flavour. So although it's very aromatic and citrus, especially orange peel on the aroma, when you get the actual taste of the beer, it should be slightly oily in the palate, and then just a big, strong, bitter grapefruit flavour in the mouth. Cheers.
Who is James and who is Martin when it comes to Brewdog? I assume they're both the co-owners and co-founders. Fill me in, because I'm not a Brewdog. I don't mind Brewdog beers. I don't mind their pub, but I'm not a Brewdog historian or anything like that in the slightest. Fill me in.
No, you nailed it there. They're the co-owners, and I think in that first clip that we played this morning, James was sort of sharing the story of how that they came about creating Brewdog and the mission that they've been on ever since. It's quite interesting because I'd say you'd probably for two guys that jointly own, in terms of craft beer wise, who jointly own probably one of the biggest craft beer breweries in the world, that you're never likely to come across two more down to earth blokes. Mm-hmm. It's you can't imagine sitting there with the CEO of I don't know, Heineken or something like that, and having as down to earth conversation as you could have with those guys. I think that's the thing that really struck me about the whole trip, was just how personable the pair of them were. Okay,
cool. Okay, well, that's one of the good things about the craft beer scene, is you meet a lot of genuine people, and because it's, I guess part of it is because it's not this huge multi-billion-dollar industry compared to like the macro beer. So
absolutely. But the thing is, and I think Ian touched on this when with what he was just saying, that the way that they are about it and the passion that they have for it, it runs throughout the company, and you can see that you can see everybody in that company thoroughly enjoys what they do. I mean, while we were having the tour of the brewery, there was a woman and she was scrubbing this shiny metal thing. There's lots of shiny metal things in a brewery, and this just shows my knowledge of the actual brewing process still isn't brilliant. But she's scrubbing away at this shiny metal thing, but she's doing it with a smile on her face, and you can see that she's actually enjoying what she's doing. And I can't think of many other jobs where at midday on a Friday you'd be happy about scrubbing down a shiny metal thing.
Unless they shouted at her to smile when the journos came through.
Maybe she had just been through the conditioning room as well. Maybe they all have to go through the conditioning room every morning to get them to that state. But I don't think so. I think the people that work there because they want to work there, and every single person in that place enjoys the job that they do.
Yeah, they're very particular about how they actually hire people, and one of the things, and this is a conversation I've had with a couple of guys up there, is first and foremost, they want people who are just absolutely passionate about craft beer and about wanting to make other people passionate about craft beer. Anything in terms of the technical side of things, while they'd like you to have some of the knowledge, they can teach you some of the other stuff. They can't teach you to be passionate about great beer. And I think it shows all the way through. And like Steve's right, it is completely top to bottom in that business. It is led from the top down. There's a wonderful vibrancy about how they go about it, and enthusiasm. Like myself and Wayne were sitting at a table with one of the members of the brew team. I think it was Paul, who's from Newcastle. And he was like so proud of the fact that when he's doing his mash-ins, that he can get within 0.02 of being that precise with the amount of sugars each time for particular beers. And just being so proud of something like that, where most of us would be like, yeah, that's okay, that's pretty cool. That just shows like what's instilled inside that company.
Cool. Well, let's tuck into. It wouldn't be a Brewdog special without a Brewdog beer, and this is one that. If anyone listened to our episode with the clips from the Great British Beer Fest, at the very end there was a little clip from Stevie Boy where he was completely pissed off his nut, and as happy as a pig in shit he was, because at Brewdog Shepherd's Bush they had on tap this brand new beer which is a collaboration between 3 breweries that Steve has a proper little boner for.
Me too.
Between Brewdog, Magic Rock, and Stone, it is called Magic Stone Dog. It is a saison pale ale hybrid, and it's 5% ABV, so it's quite nice. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, you're welcome. A low ABV for a change. And for anybody that did listen to the end of season show, let me just rectify it now. It's called Magic Stone Dog, not Magic Stone Rock, as I was rambling on about right at the end of that clip. Yes.
So this is obviously...
Actually, gents, can I just tell you something really cool about this beer? This beer was actually first muted and actually unveiled at the Punk AGM this year. Where Martin and James had said that they had just started to do a new collaboration beer with Stone and with Magic Rock, and they said it was going to be some kind of like a farmhouse pale ale farmhouse hybrid, and people thought that maybe Martin had hit the sauce a little bit early in the day, but this was actually the beer they were talking about. So anyone who was actually listening to this show and was at the AGM, hey, this is what they were talking about.
Cool. Okay, well, let's get into it then. No need to wait around. It is summer after all.
Well, just.
Still a good smell of this beer. My Punk AGM 2014 glass, look at that.
You straight away get the farmhouse aroma immediately, which kind of makes me worry that I may have been very, very drunk when I was bestowing the virtues of this beer in that final clip.
The way you were going on about it, I thought it was one of their hop bombs. I didn't know what style of beer it was. I didn't think it was going to be a saison by any stretch of the imagination.
The yeast is the real star here. This isn't like when you consider like Stone Brewing. Stone Brewing is all about, that's cram as much hops as possible into it. Brewdog are pretty much the same. Magic Rock, I don't think have followed any different. And in this one, I think the malts and definitely the yeast is like just the absolute star players here.
Yeah, it's got that lovely sharp lemony fragrance coming off the top.
Yeah. What's missing for me from it, considering that I am the world's biggest Magic Rock fanboy, and what's missing from me is the I know. So some people may be surprised to hear that. I think it might have been the first time that I've mentioned it. It's missing that Magic Rock aroma that you get. And I know it's a collaboration, and I know it's a 3-way collaboration, but every Magic Rock beer I've tried has got their distinct aroma to it.
Yeah.
Even the one that we had on cask at the Great British Beer Festival, even that farmhouse powwow that they did as a collaboration earlier on in the year, that had the Magic Rock aroma to it. That's just not present with this one. There's definitely more of a saison-esque nose to it rather than a big magic rock presence in there.
I think would be
I think the colour is about the only thing which is real magic rock about this.
I think it'd be disappointing if you had a saison that had that magic rock nose to it, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it'd be interesting to see in terms of the collaboration who was involved and how involved they were in the process. I think, but you know, I don't imagine that the three breweries would have put their names to it unless they had all been fairly hands-on with it.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we crack on and get into it?
Yeah, let's. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Well, it's more saison than it is pale ale, but it's not too saison that I don't like it.
We actually had this on draft up at Ellen, didn't we, Steve?
We did, yeah. And I still remain to be convinced by it. Having, as I say, you know, bestowing the virtues of it at the end of last season, having then tried it while we was up at Brewdog and now trying it again this evening. It's an okay beer. It's I think that the one thing that's maybe a little disappointing about it is considering the calibre of the three breweries involved, maybe hoping for more than an okay beer as a result of that.
I quite like it. It's got that fresh saison-y front to it, but with the kind of malty biscuit root at the back.
Mm.
Do you know where this was great? We were at a dinner that evening up in Ellen. We went up to Musa in Aberdeen, which is an absolutely amazing restaurant, and staff up there are amazing. But it's like Brewdog sort of beer and food playhouse. And this was actually part of the cheese board, or accompanied the cheese board, which had like a goat's cheese. It had some hard sheep's cheese as well, like a Manchego type cheese. And it had like a brie, and it also had like a red Leicester that had like a blue strain through it as well, with some quince jelly. And this beer, I thought, with a cheese board is absolutely just spot on. It just accompanied all of those cheeses, and, you know, it picked up the sweetness of the quince jelly as well. And we had like a Tokyo raisin bread with that, and some Scottish oat cakes, and it just sat with them perfectly. I think on its own, Steve is quite right that it is kind of, it's just a good beer. That's all it is. It's not spectacular. It's not what you'd expect from Stone, which is a big, huge glass of wow. Brewdog, like exclamation mark appearing in your glass, and Magic Rock just thunderous applause in a glass. I think this is something you have to accompany with something like a cheese board to actually make it work.
Do you think it's something of a beer that's trying to find an identity but doesn't quite hit the mark?
I don't think it's an identity. What do you think, Steve?
I was just going to say, on its own, maybe, yeah. You know, a saison pale ale hybrid. Well, how does that work? You know, they're two very different styles of beer. The only other hybrid beer that I've ever come across is the one that the Williams brothers do in Scotland, which is the lager IPA hybrid, and that comes out as being more lagery than it does IPA. I don't know where the idea of a hybrid beer comes from. So yeah, maybe it is struggling to find its identity. Maybe it's been brewed to specifically pair with food. You know, it's interesting. I mean, it's not a bad beer by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not one that's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be winning any awards anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm a bit. See, I've come to quite like saisons and that really nice lemony, fresh beers. And this is nice, but that I think it's let down by the pale ale side of it, with that kind of stronger malt coming through in the back. If they'd kept the saison side of it more up front, I think it would be even nicer.
I think you're right there, mate. I think you do, when you know the aroma and the first taste that you get of it, it's all saison. But then that very, very quickly gives way to that kind of biscuity, malty, tingly finish that you come to expect from a pale ale. And it's like you're drinking two different drinks, and I don't know whether that was the intention of it or not.
What say you, Mr. Fuck Macro Beer?
Like I said, I'm not offended by this at all. I don't think it's a beer that if I seen it on a shelf and I was like, I'm in the mood for a saison, but I don't want full-on Belgian yeastiness, I'd quite happily part of my money and buy another bottle of it. But if I was in the mood for like full-on hardcore saison, I'm sorry, but I'd be going to my local buddies, Brewery's More, which is a 7% saison, which feels like you're drinking a 4% saison, so you get shit-faced really quickly on it. I think that would be sort of more a go-to saison for me than this. If I was just in the mood for something which was saison-y, but I didn't want a heavy, so I wanted something farmhousey, but I didn't want something too sort of yeasty. I'd quite happily part of my money for this. I wouldn't feel like I was being ripped off either.
Yeah, for people who are put off from that yeasty side of the saisons, I think this might be a good introduction to them. Because you do get that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You get that.
Yeah.
The saison face to it, but you get the accessible pale ale side of it to help you get it down.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, mate. It's kind of almost a gateway saison beer. That if you don't want to go full on herbs and spices in your beer straight away, this is a gentle introduction to it, because it has got that pale ale side of it to balance.
Yeah. While we continue sipping on our beers, let's have another interview. This is another one of the chats that Steve had up in Brewdog. This is with James, where he's talking about Black-Eyed King Imp. Which is what, King Imperial? I'm just going by your notes. I keep wanting to say Black-Eyed King Shrimp, but it's not that. It's Black-Eyed King Imp. Here we go.
Cool, so the beer that you're about to taste is a beer that we actually made in our old, tiny, ramshackle, vagabond, cobbled together production facility up in Fraserburgh. It was a prototype batch of the beer that is now Coco Psycho, where we went absolutely stupid with the amount of coffee and the amount of chocolate that we added. So this is a 12% Russian Imperial Stout. It's decadent, it's opulent, it's indulgent. It's kind of like a velvet glove, kind of caressing your tongue. Huge amount of coffee and chocolate, and we worked with the awesome independent roaster Has Been for the coffee, and then the cacao is a Venezuelan cacao, just 100% pure cacao that we put into the beer as well. We aged it in two different types of Scotch whisky casks. So it was an Invergarden, which is a much lighter, sweeter, toasted marshmallow kind of whisky, but we also had some in a Jura whisky cask, which is more kind of dark, peaty, burning pirate ships, smoky, bonfires by the beach, kind of sea salt kind of flavours in there as well. It's really big beer, but what's kind of great about it, with every sip and every time you go back to it, it's just going to kind of open up more flavours, more nuances. Straight off the bat, loads of kind of dry cacao powder. You get a big hit of vanilla, you get some coffee, you get some roastedness of the malts when you taste it. Really kind of heavy on that kind of chocolate marshmallow notes, but then at the back you're going to get a little bit of kind of overripe autumnal fruits, kind of spiced pears, poached plums, kind of stewed berries, those kind of things in the beer as well. And it's very much kind of sums up the kind of small batch experimental stuff that we love doing as well, and we love to combine things that we're passionate about, and we're huge fans of Scotch whisky, and we've got access to some amazing Scotch whisky casks here as well, and that's what we've used in this beer. The other cool thing about this beer is like how it changes as it warms up. So it's maybe sitting at about 8 or 9 just now. As it kind of warms up to low teens, it's just going to open up so much more, both in the nose and the palate. It's maybe a little bit kind of red winey notes in it just now. You're going to lose that, and it's just going to become this kind of huge chocolate kind of soft beer with so much depth and complexity in it as well. Aged for 2 years, so it's got a tiny hit of oxidisation as well as it warms up, and it's going to be a little bit of kind of balance and tartness at the back end, which in combination with hot bitterness is going to kind of give it enough in the back end to balance a kind of big hit of sweetness you get in the front of the palate with this one.
How do you go about sourcing the barrels? Lots of contacts, I guess.
Yeah, we worked with some of the independent distillers up here. There's also the Speyside Cooperage, which is 50 miles away, and they have 500,000 empty casks. just sitting in these kind of huge whiskey cask pyramids. The ones that we want are usually near the bottom, so it's like whiskey cask Jenga when you go up to get them. So far we've been lucky, but we just take them out and then go fast.
Two-part question. Firstly, this is best before in 2024.
Yes.
Firstly, do you have a lot of science behind how beers age? Do you look into that and look at when's the best time that people should be drinking them? How do you do that? How do you predict?
Well, it's a good question, and we would have put more than 2024, but our labelling machine doesn't let us put more than 10 years on it, so that was like the maximum. That was the maximum requirement. I think you've got two different things here. So anything that's light and that's hoppy and it's lower in ABV, the sooner you can drink that, the better. And I think what we've got at the moment in terms of the UK, and we've got a lot of US IPAs here, but they're all a bit oxidised, they get taste a bit papery, a bit carbonaty. The hops are not going to be as effervescent and zingy and zesty as they should be at their best. So anything that's light and hoppy, the sooner you can drink it, the better. In terms of aging beers, it's something that we love to do. So big, strong, dark beers, you've got the alcohol in there, it's going to act as a preservative, and we do tasting kind of sessions here where we kind of taste our beers at various different ages. And unfortunately, it's not an exact science. So some of the beers that we age, they don't kind of constantly get better. They kind of hit peaks and troughs and stuff as they age. So it's just a case of, if you think something's good for aging, and buy a few bottles, lace them down, and see how it tastes. But anything like this, as it ages, the alcohol is going to reduce. So you're going to have, and the alcohol is kind of almost non-existent for a 12% beer. Kind of no ethanol, no kind of harsh nail polish, kind of alcohol taste. And the flavours are just going to kind of marry together and develop and stuff as well. So this one will possibly get even better when it ages.
And the second smaller part was just in terms of legal labelling.
Yeah.
Is there a limit what you can put on it?
With our machine, it's 10 years. Like even stronger beers like this in Tokyo will last longer than most humans. So yeah, I don't know. We usually don't worry too much about legal things. We find it's much easier to get forgiveness and permission and just do what we're going to do anyway. So I've got no idea. As an ex-lawyer, I should know, but I don't.
Florida have got in trouble for putting best before, but probably even better after. You can't do that.
And how many litres of this?
This was a tiny batch, so we made 20 hectolitres. So 20 hectolitres would have filled 10 whiskey casks. So a really small batch. So about twice the size of a batch that we can make in our current pilot kit. So super limited, and not many people have had the chance to taste this. So.
Right, cool.
I should probably just point out that these clips that we're hearing during the show weren't actually me interviewing the guys. I just so happened I was very lucky to be sat next to where they were talking from. So I just literally had the record button going all the time because I was thinking, you know what, there's just amazing content in here. I've just got to get it all. That there is an actual interview that I did with James and Martin coming at the end of the show. So make sure you stay tuned for that one.
Yeah. So Ian, what's your...
That was sorry.
No, go on, mate.
I was just going to say that beer that James was just talking about there, the Black Eyed King Imp, that was an absolutely stunning beer. If you can imagine the beer that we did at the end of the season last year, mate, the Good King Henry Special Reserve
last week?
Imperial. Yeah, last
season.
Yeah, well, feels like forever ago. Last season, yeah. Just imagine that, but imagine it even more sweeter. That's what Black Eyed King Imp was like. It was this sweet, thick, coffee infused. Oh, it was just an amazing imperial stout. Really coated the mouth. And one that
I was going to say, how many beers do Brewdog do?
12,
loads.
12 beers. They have they've now got their range broken up into two. They've got their headliner range, which has everything under 6%. They've got everything over that is in the amplified range, which now means Coco Psycho being that little bit more permanent. Going to have Tokyo being in there. Libertine Black Ale, I think, has gone into that. Jackhammer's gone permanent into it. And then you've got the abstract beers that they have, and they'll have a couple of other specials that be on throughout the year. There's another one they're actually brewing, which is actually going to be really interesting, which is another saison that they did on the final episode of season 2 of Brewdogs, which they actually agreed to take the winner of that challenge to bring them over to Scotland to brew that beer to be put out into the bars. So, and that was a sage and honey saison.
Wow.
Very difficult thing to brew.
So, how many beers do they have? 12, did you say?
About 12 right now, I think there is right now. There's about 12 beers of Brewdog's naming it, because you also need to remember that McKellar's I Hardcore You, their joint venture, is now a permanent beer as well.
Okay, and they're always doing these little special brews, aren't they, that kind of come out and then aren't there again?
Yep.
Yeah.
Vote Sepp is out at the moment as well, and
So how long
couple
will
of
this
other-
Magic Stone Dog be available for, do you think?
I mean, the simple answer is probably until it runs out. But I don't think it'll be available for long. I think the bottles will probably be around longer than any of the keg version of it. And it's whether they choose to brew it again or not really. But yeah, they do have a number of kind of special releases and one-off beers coming in and out of that core range throughout the year as well, don't they?
I have to say, as I'm getting to the end of this, it's kind of losing its charm by the end of the bottle. It is kind of
it's kind of
sitting back into a comfy, semi-malty ale chair with a slight hint of saison.
It's lost most of its aroma now, and towards the end of the glass, it's losing a lot of the flavours that were in there. It's turning more saison-y now. So I think it's I mean, like I say, it's a decent enough beer, and you know there are three massive breweries that put their name to this. I would have just hoped for just something a little bit more special than this.
See, you were kind of hoping for a hop bomb, weren't you?
No, I wasn't. Yeah, I was hoping for the mother of all hot bombs, to be honest. When they announced that it was going to be a Saison Pale Ale hybrid, you could probably hear my disappointment 1,000 miles away. I was hoping them to announce like a quadruple IPA, hopped to within an inch of its life, maybe black as well. But a Saison. Sorry?
We will actually have from Brewdog. I believe they just got I think it just passed Q&A recently for release, which is Cap Dog, which will be a coffee berry imperial black IPA, and it actually uses the berry fruit from coffee beans in it, and apparently it's supposed to be an absolute, like, a flavor bomb. I was hoping we'd get to try it while we were there, but not so.
I'm very excited right now. Just at the sound of that, I am. I've gone a little bit weak at the knees because that sounds pretty good stuff. And tell you what, I'm also looking forward to from Brewdog, and we had a brief preview of this while I was up there as well. They've got a new series coming out called Russian Doll, which is
I'm hard right now.
Too much information, Ian. Really?
All right. I love that beer. That was so amazing.
It's going to be a 4-pack of beers, and within the 4-pack there's a pale ale, an IPA, a double IPA, and a barley wine. Now they're all essentially the same ingredients in every one of the 4 beers. Although what they've done is they've adjusted the malt bill to change the ABVs of the beers. So essentially what you're going to get is 4 beers that are the same but are of different ABVs. And they're going to come in this pack called Russian Doll, and we got to try the IPA at the food event in the evening, and that was a pretty decent beer as well. To think what that's going to be like in terms of the double IPA that's going to be in there, and the barley wine that's going to be in there. And just the packaging that goes with it as well, because obviously, you know the term Russian doll is, these little dolls that fit inside one another, slowly getting bigger and bigger, and each of the labels reflects, have got a different sort of image of a Russian doll on them. and they're pretty stunning stuff to look at and to hold. They're like in line with the new packaging that Brewdog are doing. I mean, this bottle that we've got here tonight has got a slightly tactile feel to the label. It's not a smooth label, and this is the sort of stuff they're going to be doing now. So for their specials, they're going to have this sort of limited edition artwork on there, but it's going to have this real nice feel to it as well. So actually, you actually feel like you've got something in your hands rather than just a smooth label.
I actually like the methodology for the new labels for the specials, where James was actually quite proud of this, where they'll actually get an artist from the UK to get them specially commissioned to design these one-off labels for these special beers. Russian Doll had a Scottish artist, and I can't remember her name, but she was approached to do all the labels for them. They just look so lovely and vibrant, and it makes such a real difference. And it's cool to actually see things like that where they can sort of bring the art form to the bottle as opposed to to match also what's in it too.
Yeah, and if you want to have a look at our Instagram account, there's an image of 3 of the Russian Doll beers up on the account, which I snapped while we were in the secret lab in the brewery, and then kind of tweeted and then deleted and thought better just get the okay to release that, because I didn't know if the images had been released. But that's up on our Instagram account if people want to have a look at certainly 3 of the 4 bottles that will be in that package when it comes out.
Cool. Let's have another clip from the trip up north. This is where Martin from Brewdog is talking about Brixton Porter.
This one was part of our, I guess, last year's prototype challenge. So the Brixton Porter one, but basically it's, I guess, a nice interpretation of where porter can be, and because we've got 5 outlets in London, it's quite cool to call it Brixton Porter. But the beer itself is pretty full on for a porter. It's 5% alcohol, so it's not massively alcoholic. But in terms of flavour profile, it's pretty intense. First off, for me, is a lot of tar, burnt sugar, tar, like hot bitumen on a tar on a hot day. That sort of in your face smell. We use a lot of chocolate malt in this beer, and then we use a lot of brown malt and amber malt as well. And those just give you the more burnt flavours coming in. So you want that kind of balance, I think, between sort of toffee sweetness, intense caramel, but then you want a little bit of burnt astringency in the background as well. And it's getting that balance right. The beer's only got hops at the start of the boil and mid-boil. There's no sort of late hops in the beer, and it's I think Bravo or maybe a little bit of Magnum for the bitterness, but then it's Fuggles and Goldens, if I'm remembering correctly. English hops anyway for the aroma. So a little bit of subtle aroma in the beer in terms of hops, but the main thing for me is just getting the balance between that caramel sweetness, the sort of tarry astringency, a little bit of chocolate in there, little hints of coffee, at the same time making it a beer that you can drink at 2 bottles. It's got that refreshing quality as well, although it is very intense in its malt character.
Right, okay, let's get your final remarks on this beer, the Magic Stone Dog Saison Pale Ale from Stone, Brewdog and Magic Rock. Steve?
It's a decent enough beer. If you're a massive fan of saisons, this isn't going to do it for you. If you're a massive fan of pale ales, this isn't going to do it for you. If you like to try beers that are a little bit different, maybe a gateway entry to a saison, this is probably the beer for you. I'm just a little bit disappointed in it. I was hoping for more. Yes, I was hoping for a hot bomb, considering the 3 breweries were involved. But by all means, I would suggest if you do see a bottle of it, purely because of the fact that it's probably only going to come around once, I would get a bottle of this just to give it a try, because it's always good to have your own opinions on these things rather than just mine. Ian, put that hot bomb down, please.
That's his Brew More. His
okay.
go-to saison.
I thought he was showing me this. Massive hot bomb.
And he's all Ireland pint glass as well. He's Irish to the core, he is.
Just actually, why you say that, for anybody that actually remembers when we did have Ian guest on the show recently, tonight was supposed to be a special about Irish craft beer. Ian was going to send us over some beers from Ireland, and we were going to drink those and discuss those. But obviously,
he drank them all.
With the trip to Brewdog coming up, yeah, he drank them all. With the trip to Brewdog coming up, we decided that obviously we got some really good content from up there, and Ian was there, and it'd be better to do a special that was around Brewdog, and maybe looking forward a bit further into future seasons. Actually, rather than just doing Irish craft beer as a one-off, maybe doing a series of shows about Irish craft beer and having Ian and Wayne and some of the other bloggers from Ireland coming on and talking to us about the beers that they're so passionate about. You can send that whenever, mate. Feel free to send that. We can always give them a try and a taste before we actually do any recording.
Excellent.
I say that we go to Ireland, Steve, and we do a live beer o'clock show in Ireland. Do a pub crawl, the whole thing. I'm sure they'll love us.
Let's do it. Let's do that. let's do that. Early next year. You and me, mate. We're going to do it.
All right, cool. Sold. Right.
Ian's going to put us up on his floor or something like
that. We can sleep under the pile of 11 p.m. somewhere T-shirts that he hasn't sold yet.
Keep you warm.
Right, let's wrap this up. For people who listen to this on a Friday night, on the Saturday night following this episode's release is the Beer O'Clock Show live lock-in. If you are someone who doesn't listen to this as soon as it comes out, then it's been and gone, guys. You missed it. What's wrong with you?
Boo!
And it was probably great, and we'll probably do it again.
Yeah. And Steve would not have been embarrassed by me and Ian at all. No. What's coming up in season 5, mate? We did a little thing last week, or the week before, whenever the end of season thing was.
Last year, wasn't it? It was last year, according to me.
We've got a shitload of Italian beers, basically.
Yeah. Season 5. The list is up on the website now. Click on the tab that says Season 5 beer list. You'll see all the beers are up there. We're doing 6 Italian craft beers as part of Season 5. You can get a 15% discount off of those from ordering them from Beers from Italy. All the details are on the website. Interspersed between those Italian beers are a range of other beers that we'll be drinking next season. We've got a load of bloggers coming on with us again throughout the season, and they've chosen some of the beers that we're featuring. So not all of that beer list was me. So can I just point out to the barrage of abuse that I've got from a number of people, we are featuring Halcyon, not because I do not know what it tastes like, because I do know what it tastes like. We are featuring it because one of our guest bloggers requested that we feature it, and I was more than happy to oblige that request.
And not because you bought a case of it, Steve, yeah?
It's got nothing to do with the fact that I bought a case of Halcyon, because it is a stunning beer. And I'm actually looking forward to giving it the full-on Beer O'Clock Show treatment, where we actually review it properly, rather than just tweeting in capital letters, Halcyon!
And will you be offended when I say it tastes like piss?
Mate, seriously, possibly.
Cool. Okay, Ian, where can people find you, mate? Where can people find the podcast?
Oh, sure, why would they want to do that? No, they can find the podcast on 11pmsomewhere.com, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, in your mum's ears, from your kids' blanket forts, from little islands to the left of the UK.
Very good. And our website is beeroclockshow.co.uk. Twitter is Beer O'Clock Show. Instagram is Beer O'Clock Show. Steve's on Untapped at Beer O'Clock Show. Steve, I'm on Untapped at Roku and on Twitter at Roku Beer. 10% discount on the website for Season 5 beer list from Ales by Mail or Ales by Mail. See what's on sale at Ales by Mail. Right. We've got... After the little jingly-dangly music at the end, there's going to be another interview. The final interview with James Watt and Martin Dickie from Brewdog. Steve, Why should people stay and listen to this interview?
Because three things. Firstly, it's probably the most nervous I've ever been interviewing anybody, and within that I would include the stuff that we did with John Keeling. Obviously, because of the hype that surrounds Brewdog and Martin and James, it was quite daunting going in and interviewing them. Secondly, the insight that they share throughout the interview is just fascinating. And thirdly, just the passion that the guys talk with. That they every answer they give, you can tell they truly care about everything that they're doing. And if those three reasons aren't enough, then a final reason is that for the first time ever at the end of the interview, they turned the tables and started interviewing me. So they started asking me questions. So if for no other reason, just stay tuned right till the end of the interview just to listen to that bit, because it really catches me on the back foot.
It was came down from that.
Yeah, it was. I was a little surprised when I came out, but it was. It's certainly, like I say, just real insight and real passion in there, and that's the reason why you want to listen to it.
Right, great. Okay, well, we got another there. Season 5 starts in a couple of weeks. 19th it comes out. Is that right?
It does. My birthday.
Yeah,
everybody.
Got that etched on my brain, lad. Right, until
Add it to your Google account.
Okay.
Until then, thanks very much, Ian, for joining us.
Thanks, Ian.
Hey.
Bye-bye.
James Watt, Martin Dickie, welcome to the Beer O'Clock Show. Thanks for giving us some time to chat to you today. Just going to ask you some questions that our listeners have tweeted in. So first one up, what's your go-to Brewdog beer?
My go-to is our flagship beer, which is Punk IPA. It's the one that I drink most of, but what I think is great about good beer and craft beer in general, it's just the stylistic diversity. So sometimes you want the bitter, crisp, noble, hoppy snap of a Pilsner, sometimes you want the citrus, fruity onslaught of a double IPA with a savage bitterness, sometimes you want the soothing, decadent opulence of an Imperial Stout, sometimes you want the mouth-puckering acidity of a classic Belgian Lambic, and I think that diversity is what makes good beer fantastic. So I go to my go-to beer seldom because there's so many awesome beers out there.
Okay.
For me, today it's Friday, so Jackhammer.
Excellent. You guys recently announced that you're looking to produce your own hop. What are you going to be looking for in that?
It's finding something that's got a little bit of a unique point of difference. You know, there's a lot of hops out there, but there's also a good variety of hops that will never actually make commercial success, just because a lot of them are very similar to each other. So we've been working at for the last year out in Yakima with some guys over there to try and see if we can find something for ourselves that's a little bit different that we can maybe incorporate into some of our beers to give us that little hoppy edge.
Mm-hmm. And will you be looking to incorporate that into existing beers, so as changing the recipe essentially, or will that just be a feature of new beers?
I think it depends what we can find. It's all about, you know, what we can produce with them, and then a lot of testing and seeing if it's something that'll add to our existing range, or whether it's something that goes off in its own thing and becomes its own beer.
Mm-hmm. Cask, never say never or never again?
Somewhere in between the two. So at the moment there's no plans for cask whatsoever. It's not that we don't like cask. I think a lot of the kind of indigenous UK beer styles, milds, bitters, ESBs, they're so well showcased in cask. I think the type of beers that we do, which are more assertive, higher ABV, hoppy beers, I think in cask they become a bit sticky, a bit cloying, and they're best delivered to people's taste buds the way we dispense them, which is in kegs. So at the moment there's no plans to do any cask beer. I'd never say never, but definitely no plans in the short or medium term future.
Okay.
It's all I drink at home.
So all you drink at home?
Yeah, we've got a cellar full, it's set up with like 8 different firkins.
What comes first, beer or brand?
beer, always beer. We live and die by what's in the bottle, we live and die by what's in the glass. It's all we care about. Our dad's done well, but for us it's beer first, beer second, beer third, beer fourth, beer fifth, then people are the next five, and then what comes after that we don't really care about.
And safety is somewhere in the mix. It's important. Health, and if anyone's listening from Health and Safety Society, safety should be probably number 3.
Yeah. So for us, it's about beer and it's about the people, and everything else is reasonably inconsequential in the overall scheme of things.
Okay, so with the new branding, does that dictate a new direction in your marketing as well?
No, not so much. I mean, I think our marketing is what it is. We do what we want when we want. We make statements that we believe in. I think there has been an evolution over the last couple of years, focused more kind of towards education and information, and not linked so much to new packaging. The new packaging is just because we think it's awesome, and after 7.5 years, it was time to evolve it.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier on, is it 1 in every 2,700 drinks are one of yours? What does that number have to come down to before you guys consider yourself mainstream?
I think we're still so small and so tiny, and we never want to be mainstream. If anything, we want to move the mainstream just a tiny bit towards us. We're never going to compromise anything that we do to go towards that middle section of the market, and I think we can worry about being too big if we're 1 or 2 in every 100, but even then we're still tiny. But 1 in every 2,700, we're this little thing that most people out there have got no idea exists.
Where do you want to be in 10 years' time?
I don't know where we want to be next week. We just want to make beers that we're passionate about, have fun, and where we get to is not going to be determined by ourselves, it's going to be determined by the market, and we're not going to compromise anything we believe in ever to grow the business. We're just going to be completely selfish to make beers that we love, put our heart and soul in every beer that we make, and where we get to will be determined by the market and not by us, and wherever we get to, as long as we keep making beers that we love, which we'll always do, we're going to be happy.
Mm-hmm. You was talking earlier on a little bit about the history of where you guys got to where you are now. You started off home brewing and selling out the back of your car. At that point, did you ever believe this point would come where you're as successful as you are now?
I mean, we always believed in what we were doing. To be honest, we're a little bit disappointed that it took us to the end of 2012 to get our own, purpose-built brewery done. We thought we could do that by the end of 2010. So if anything, we're a little bit behind our schedule. But it's all about trying to enlighten people as to what beer can be. So the sooner people realise where beer's at, the better.
And what advice would you give to anybody looking to go down the same path that you guys have gone down?
Good luck. It's a hell of a lot of hard work.
Just never compromise on anything, and you've got to do it for the right reason. So it's so hard work, it's such a bitch, it kicks you in the teeth and the face so many times. If you're doing it for any other reason than just complete passion and love for great beer, you will undoubtedly fail. So when things were tough for us, and they've been tough a lot of time, it's just that passion that has sustained us, and that's what motivates us still every single day. It's why we're here, it's why our team's here. We just love fantastic beer. We would share that love and passion with as many people as we can.
Okay, so talking about sharing with as many people as you can, you obviously do the beer that's branded as Tesco's but is a Brewdog beer. How did that collaboration come about?
So we're not elitist at all in who we sell to. Our mission is to make other people as passionate about great craft beer as we are. So we will happily sell to Tesco, to Sainsbury's, to Asda, to Wetherspoons, to Mitchells and Butlers, to Dean King. We want to get good beer in people's hands, and if these people can help us do that, then amazing.
Should supermarkets be doing more to promote craft beer?
I mean, I guess they have to see a little bit about where the market is at the moment. Craft beer makes up a small section, but as long as they're willing to work with people and try and promote craft beer, then it gives people the option to have. And I think just having that option to pick up a great beer is a a really good starting point, and it allows us to build from there.
Mm-hmm.
You can now get Jackhammer in Scottish Tesco's, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about the prospect of that ever happening in England, maybe.
Well, it's sold very well since it's been in Scottish Tesco's, which usually helps. So yeah, hopefully we can convince them to push it in England too.
What about when you start canning it? Because you recently announced that will be the first beer that will go into the new canning line next year. Can we expect to see it more commercially available then?
Jackhammer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will we get to a point where we'll see 6 packs of Jackhammer on the Tesco shelves?
I'm not sure we'll get there. And again, this is something that's not determined by us. So we've got more fermentation tanks coming, we've got a canning line coming, so we will have the ability to do that if we can persuade Tesco or Sainsbury's or Morrison's or Waitrose to do that. Let's see, but we'd love to see 6 packs of Jackhammer cans available. And
if I had my way, it would be delivered by the milkman.
Brilliant. I would love that also. That would make me want to use my local milkman again.
Yep.
What's next, guys? You've come so far in a fairly short amount of time. You are hugely successful at everything that you do. People just crave for. What's next for Brewdog?
More beer. The great thing at the moment is we've just put in the new 10 hectolitre pilot system. So by the end of the month that'll be up and running. Allows us to then really refocus on everything that we're doing. Why are we doing it the way we do it? Can we do it any better? So getting right back into each and every one of the products we're putting out. Is it the best that we can absolutely make, or can we make it better? In terms of pushing the boundaries of what beer can be, let's get back into that and be focused on where beer's going, what beer is at the moment. Is there any things again that we can do a little bit different? Some of the most fun things at the moment now is because as the brewery gets bigger, we can get some more toys to play with, and that means that we're able to do things that we've never been able to do in the past, which makes our ability to make even better beer possible, and that's a lot of fun, and it takes a lot of focus, and we've got a lot of dedicated people here that want to do just that. The next beer that we make should be the best beer we've ever made.
And as you can hopefully see today, so we're reasonably successful in what we've done up until now, but every single penny that we've made has been reinvested in the facility you've seen today to push the art, to push the science, to push the technology, and make the beers that we make even better, and help us do things that we're going to put in bottles and glasses that can blow people away completely. And that's what we're focused on. So continue making great beers, and we're still tiny, so we grow our business, get more tanks in, open some more bars, and continue the mission to make people passionate about fantastic beers, and not just our beers, but the phenomenal beers that are now being made in the UK and Europe and all around the planet.
Okay, well, brilliant. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you giving up the time today. I appreciate the invite up to have a look around. Amazing facilities you've got here, and I look forward for what you've got in store for us this evening.
I have a question for you.
Yes. Oh, I'll keep it recorded. Yeah.
Okay, so everyone always has all these kind of conceptions and preconceived notions about us and our company and stuff. How have they changed or not changed by what you've seen today?
I don't think they've changed by what they've seen today. I think the big thing for me has been how normal you guys are. I think there's this perception that you're this huge beast of a brand, and that comes from you guys. But I've never met two more down to earth guys as you two.
Handsome. Did you say handsome in there?
Handsome. Intelligent.
Yep.
Yeah. And just I think the fact that you're both quite comfortable to sit in a room full of collective bloggers and video people and podcasters and journalists and talk with absolute passion about the beers that you produce. I don't think I came up here with any preconceptions. For me, it's really how personable you guys are and how easy you both are to talk to.
To be honest, if the conversation went outside of beer, I would start to struggle.
I'll
Current
remember
affairs
that.
not so good.
Remember that for later on then.
Yep.
But no, I'm like I say, I'm grateful for the invite today. glad-
well, anyone who's listening, we now have our visitor facility open. We've now got Dog Tap open.
Go on, get them all in. Get all the adverts in.
We've now got Dog Tap open. You can come up, you can hang out, you can see how we make the beers. You can go and live in Martin's house. You can
try your cask beers in your cellar.
Yes.
Actually, the thing that I found really surprising about Dog Tap when we was over there at lunchtime was £5 for a tour, and you get a flight of beers for that from your core range. So essentially, you're probably getting the tour for free.
Oh, we lose money on that, and accountants would say we're stupid, but we're happy to do things that people think are stupid. It's all about getting people excited about what we're doing here, letting them see how we make the beers, letting them see the ingredients, the people behind it, and it's not about, for us, anything we do is not about making money, and we just are so grateful that people want to give up some of their weekend or some of their spare time to come and see what we do here, that we just want to charge the smallest amount we possibly can. We're happy to lose money on it and just so excited that we want to come and hang out.
And I think from what I've seen, that the passion that you guys have goes all the way down through the company as well. You can see that in every member of staff that's got like an admin role here. You can see that in the brewery team. You know, I've never seen a happier place of work as we've walked around today. So I think you guys should be properly proud of that as well, because you built more than just a brewery here.
Yeah, I think the cool thing is that, you know, everybody that works with us understands that it takes a whole team to make the awesome beer. You know, it's not just the guy in the brew house and the guy in the cellar. We need everyone to be absolutely focused in their attention that, you know, this is the best beer that's going to leave here. We're going to do it in the best way we can. So whether it's the guys in the bar selling the beer across the customer, and it's all about engagement there, or whether it's the people chasing up money at the back end as well. The whole thing is quite cyclical, but at the same time it really makes a difference that everyone has that singular focus.
How much of the beer is what you guys want to brew, and how much is what the brewery team want to brew, or is it a kind of conversation that you have between you?
In terms of
In terms of just where the new ideas come from, because you know you've always got new ideas coming up, and they're always fresh ideas as well. So
I mean,
where does that keep coming from? Where's the innovation keep coming from?
I mean that's a great question. I mean the best thing as well about as we grow our team is that there's more and more people coming in with different experiences and coming from different cultures and places. So it really helps out with coming up with new ideas, with new visions, and seeing where we can push beer to be. And especially this time of year, we do our employee challenge, I guess, where anyone in the company gets the chance to make a beer on the little Brew Magic system, 50 litre system. So whoever wants to take part makes a beer, and then it's all done by a blind tasting panel throughout our bars, and whoever wins that one is a beer that we'll make on a 100 hectolitre batch, and it'll be sold throughout the whole bars. So it gives, you know, anyone anywhere in the company the chance to be the one that can come up with a new beer. In terms of the day-to-day new beer and new innovation, it's obviously mostly led by James and myself and some of the more senior brew team, but it's great that anyone with an idea, no matter where they are in the brewery, has that opportunity to say, well guys, I think this is the beer that we should be making. You know, whether it's something that made in the garage, whether it's something they've tried on their holidays, wherever it is. It's really important that all these ideas are funneling into the system.
Okay, well, thanks very much. Appreciate your time.
Cool, thanks for coming up, and hope you enjoy this evening.